Welcome back for the final time this season. It is our Game Week 46 National League prediction. It's the penultimate game week in the Vanarama National League. As you can see to the right of me, I'm not, of course, joined by Paul, which is a shame on the final episode. However, you will be seeing his face again at some point before we bring things to a close for the 23-24 season. Instead, though, I brought on another Northerner, a guy from the Northeast, of course, and it's Dave from the Heed Army podcast, who, of course, is a Gateshead fan. Dave, firstly, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks for having us. It's nice to be on again.
No, it's nice to hear that accent once again, especially with it being Northern as well. But no, it's good to have you on. Of course, I'm sure you'll be in a fairly decent mood at the moment because Gateshead, they're in the playoffs. They're in quite a healthy position, of course, lost in midweek, have had their injury problems themselves. But with all the adversity that you've had this season, this has been a magnificent season for you. And an FA Trophy final, a playoff campaign. To be honest, if you're a Gateshead fan, you can't ask for much more at the moment.
Not really. If you had said when Mike Williamson left that you'll improve the squad, especially in January when we lost the likes of Stephen Wern and Archie Mayer and Lofthouse, just to name a few, it looked very doom and gloom. We went to York and lost on New Year's Day, and you were like, oh, this is going to be one of them seasons where we might just peter out. You hope that you wouldn't be anywhere near the relegation zone, but things have just kicked into another gear, and it's I was interviewed on ITV, our local news up here, and I said it's dreamland. This must be like to be a Real Madrid fan getting to another final and being in contention at the end of the season. It's just something special, savouring it, because it doesn't happen all the time.
I think, it certainly is at the moment, especially for Gateshead. It was only this time last season, well, probably a little bit before that, Gateshead were looking like they were going to go straight back down to the National League North. And, you look at it now, you had a Wembley appearance. Yes, of course, you lost in the final. Sorry to bring that up, but it's still to get there. Following season to return once again, which takes some doing, especially when you're losing the final, and to, of course, be in a playoff campaign and be so competitive throughout the season. It's going very well for Gateshead at the moment. Of course, from my side, we are kind of limping over the line. Of course, it's going down to the final week.
We've kind of had a similar end to the season, haven't we? Because obviously the amount of games that we've had, and we had to squeeze them in and here, there, and everywhere. But as long as you don't talk about rain with Aldershot, we're all right.
Yeah. So that's all we need, of course, for Halifax tomorrow. We need to better Aldershot's result. Well, no, they actually have to better our result for them to get into the playoffs. Of course, we're in the driving seat. If Halifax win, we're in, no matter what. Aldershot win, Halifax have to have either drawn or lost for them to get in. But if Halifax and Aldershot both lose and Southend win, Southend will sneak in on goal difference. So they're not out of the question yet. Also, at the other side of the table, Ebbsfleet can go. Ebbsfleet v Bournemouth is on TNT Sports. That's probably going to be the game of the game week, probably, because one of those will definitely be going down, I believe. No, they won't be, because there's also Woking, who are down, who are not home and dry as of yet. I think York can technically still go down, mathematically, can still go down, but it's unlikely. Same with Wealdstone. So it's certainly going to be quite an interesting game week, and there's quite a few interesting games to preview, which is good, ahead of the playoff campaign as well. We're going to get straight into it tonight. There isn't too much to particularly get on with. We're going to get straight into the game to predict, and then we'll come back to the live chat after that. So let's have a look at the score. Well, let's have a look at the table before we get on to that. So this is a quick look at the table at the moment. Of course, this is, as we've spoke, is the main talking point. Of course, Halifax drew to Oldham in midweek, which means Oldham can't mathematically get inside the playoffs now, so their season is over. Southend, of course, as we've mentioned, can still technically get in as long as Aldershot and Halifax both lose. We look further down, and here we are. These three, of course, are all relegated. but either Bournemouth, Woking, or Ebbsfleet, or York or Wealdstone will be going down. Most likely between one of these three. I very much doubt York or Wealdstone would go down because it will take some doing for them to go down. But anyway, let's have a look at the games to predict. The first one, Altrincham versus Oxford then. This is quite, I think, a game. It's meaningless for Oxford. It's their final game in the National League for the time being. Altrincham, if they win, they would maintain a fourth place finish, which means they would play seventh and have the home tie. What are you thinking then, Dave, for this game?
I mean, are you going to see the classic relegated team turn it on because they play with free abandon? They've got no shackles, have they? I can't say anything more than an Altrincham win, to be honest. But you live in hope, obviously, because Gateshead, as we'll get onto later, can possibly sneak that fourth place and get a home tie in the quarterfinals. But I can't see anything but an Altrincham win. I think they're one of the better sides I've seen this year. Play good football, and it's a shame for Oxford, but they've just been the whipping boys this year.
What's your actual prediction then?
Ooh, I'll go. I think I'll go 3-0 Altrincham.
I'm going to go 3-1 to Altrincham. I do agree with you on that. Next game then, Barnet versus Kidderminster. Barnet can actually drop to third. I don't know if it means much in the long run, that. But of course, if Bromley win and Barnet lose, they will drop to third. Kidderminster have nothing to play for apart from pride and finishing on a high after quite a, I think, poor season overall. Of course, since Phil Brown's come in, I think that they've certainly improved and looked like they were good enough to survive, but they've just drawn too many games and haven't actually been able to get out of the drop zone. For me, for this game, I think it's a bit of a banana skin for Barnet. I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think Barnet might have rest some players with the thought of just nursing people through if there's anyone with niggles or anything like that. I think you might see more fringe players play for Barnet in this one. So I think leaves it open to be more of a draw. I'll probably go Barnet pinch a 2-1 though, but I think it'll be a tight game because I think Kidderminster want to give a good account of themselves. And as you say, since Phil Brown come in, they've been like second half of the season. I thought they were going to stop up until a few weeks ago. So yeah, but I think Barnet might just pinch this one.
We'll move on to the next game then now. And of course, this is the game that's been selected for TNT Sports. Probably the game of the game week because, of course, one of these sides at 5 p.m. will be proper happy at full time. I think there's a bit of an echo.
It is, yeah. Sorry, there you go. Sorry, that was my fault.
But also, one full time at 5 p.m. One of these sides will be full of joy and happiness to be in the division still, and one will be devastated knowing that they will be returning to the National League South. I think it will be for both clubs. Of course, Ebbsfleet will be returning after only spending the season in this division. Boreham Wood have spent quite a few seasons in this division, have kind of established themselves in this division and certainly had an off season. So for them to go down, it would be very disappointing, especially considering it is Luke Garrard's last season. This is a very tough one to predict. How do you see it going, Dave?
It's you know what it is. I think Boreham Wood are going to have enough. I think they'll want to do it for the gaffer on the way out. I think Boreham Wood they've turned it on the last few games. Obviously, unbeaten in 3, but it just seems to be that Luke Gerrard just kind of was too loyal to too many players this season. But I think you'll go out on a high and keep them up. And I'm going to go 2-1 to Boreham Wood.
I'm going to go 1-0 to Boreham Wood. You look at the squad overall, it shouldn't be down there. I think both of these sides have proven that they're probably good enough to survive. And I think next season, I would expect one of these sides, whoever survives, to actually push on next season. Boreham would have certainly had an off season. It will be a season to forget. Ebbsfleet, first season in the division, it's getting used to new surroundings and to be able to establish themselves next season. But for me, I've just got a feeling Boreham Wood will get it done. I think overall they're a better team. They've proven that in recent weeks. They've got Kabongo Tishamanga going forward. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Boreham Wood win. We'll move on to the next game then now. Chesterfield versus Maidenhead. I think a meaningless game for both sides. Of course, Chesterfield will be preparing for League Two. Maidenhead, of course, an away day to Chesterfield. They don't have anything to play for at all. For me, for this game, of course, I look at this. Chesterfield haven't actually won since they've actually confirmed that they're going to get promoted. I think Chesterfield will win this. I think they're going to win 2-0. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think it might even be a whitewash. I think it'll be something like 4 or 5-0. I think Chesterfield will want to see it out. I mean, they'll get the. Do they have already have they had the trophy yet or not? At
I don't think. No, yeah, I don't actually know if they have or not.
Either way, I think they're going to go out on a high, celebrate, and if Paul Cook after the game on Monday at Gateshead when we won, if that's anything to go by, he'll be wanting to win because he was livid in that game. I don't know if you've seen there was a controversial penalty, but you know they played fantastic even though they lost, and I can't see them doing anything but win here and go out on a high and celebrate with the fans. I think I'm going to go 4-0. 4-0.
We'll move on to the next game then now. Dagenham versus Aldershot. This is a big game for Aldershot. Dagenham don't have anything to play for, so maybe the pressure's off them. Aldershot have to better Halifax's result. They have to at least get a point in this game and hope then that Halifax actually lose. So they'll be going into this game, I think, with the mentality that they've got to win. And I can see it being quite a high scoring. I'm actually going to go for a 2-2 draw for this game. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think if Dagenham score first, Aldershot are going to open themselves up, and I think there will be a lot of goals in this one. I think you're right. I think I'll go 2-2 as well on that one because I think Aldershot are going to have to throw the kitchen sink at it, regardless of what the score is anywhere else.
Dorking versus Hartlepool. Dorking preparing for a trip back to the National League South. It is sad to see them go because I think they do add something to this division. Hartlepool, of course, had a bit of a mediocre season, you'd probably say, for them first season back in the National League. I think next season they'll be hoping to push on and hopefully have a bit of a push to get back in the EFL. For this game, I think Dorking will be wanting to end on a high. So I think Dorking are going to win this 2-1. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think Dorking might go out with a bit of blood and thunder. I think they'll want to prove a point because for much of the season they were all right, and then it's just that back end have just slipped right down. They played attractive football. I mean, they proved they could grind out results when they beat Chesterfield. So I think I'm going to go 1-0 Dorking. I think Hartlepool are just a very poor side this year.
Eastleigh versus Halifax then. Eastleigh, a bit like Dagenham, don't have anything to play for now. Halifax, of course, will be going into this game, I think, going for the win because they don't want to be relying on other results elsewhere. For me, I think we're going to grind it out. I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 Halifax win for this game. It's certainly going to be a nervous one myself, being a Halifax fan. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think obviously Halifax go into this with needing the points. There's going to be that drive in the team, and I think, I'll go 3-2. I think there may be a high scoring one because Eastleigh they're not shy of goals, are they? So yeah, I think it'll be 3-2 Halifax even.
Okay, your side then, Gateshead versus Bromley. Bromley, I don't know if they'll be that bothered, but they'll be wanting to get second this season. Of course, Gateshead might be wanting to get fourth. I don't know if they're that bothered about that or not. How do you see it going then? I'm actually going to go for, I think this will be a 1-1 draw this game. How do you see it going?
I think we're going to go for it. I think to get the home advantage in the quarterfinals is everything. I think it'll really add a dynamic with a few thousand packing into the international stadium. So I think I'm going to go 2-1 Gateshead. I think Bromley might, like Barnet, could possibly just rest a few players with the semi-finals in sight for them.
Oldham versus Wealdstone then. Of course, Wealdstone aren't mathematically safe, but they virtually are. Oldham have had, I think, 1 win in 10 or something, or they might even be winless in that time. Of course, I saw them against Halifax earlier on in the week. For me, for this game, I'm going to go for a 1-0 Wealdstone win, which would just sum up Oldham's season. So,
Yeah,
throughout the season.
I think it's going to be toxic at Boundary Park judging by Twitter. They're not impressed down at Boundary Park, so I think Wealdstone might just heap some misery on. I think the fans will turn there with their frustrations towards the team because they've spent a lot of money this year. They've handed out big contracts, and really, I think they should have done better. So I think Wealdstone, they'll just. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Actually, I think Wealdstone will just get that point to make sure they're safe from relegation.
Fair enough, then. Yeah, I think it would sum up Oldham's season, if they did lose this game, because their home form's been awful. We saw them go to Chesterfield, and they only took 300 there, so they must have had at least 1,500 refunds after they sold nearly 2,000 tickets. So for me at Oldham, it does feel toxic. I think they've had enough, and the group of players that they've got to their disposal should be doing a lot better. Like, for me, when I actually saw them, I didn't think too much to them. The only player that stood out was Dan Gardner, and he's 35, 36 years of age.
They didn't play as a team to me. There was a lot of individuals, and I think they need either Mickey Mellon will get them, galvanised in the summer, or he'll have to get rid of some dead wood. But I think that they're flattered to deceive all year, and I think we all know for the money that some of their players are on, they should be in the top 3.
Solihull versus York, then. What are you thinking for this game? I'm actually going to go for another 1-1 draw.
See, I wouldn't mind Solihull winning this and sending York down. Just for the crack on Twitter, because it's nice to see a York fan cry. I'm only joking in case any did, but secretly I am. But no, I think York. I think this one. I think York may get beat here. I'm going to go 1-0 to or 2-0 to Solihull Moors.
Move on to the next game then. Now, Southend versus Rochdale. I can only see one thing, and that is a Southend win. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Southend win.
Yeah.
Will it be enough though for them to make the playoffs? I do hope not.
I mean, their goal difference is something else, isn't it? Yeah. So and I can see them only adding to that. There's only Barnet or Chesterfield with a better goal difference. Mm-hmm. No, obviously Chesterfield's got 40. Yeah. So there's only 2 teams with a better goal difference in them. But I think it's going to be an emphatic win. I think Rochdale's got nothing to play for. I think they can't even make top 10, can they? So I think it's 3 or 4-0. I'll go 4-0. I think they're going to be emphatic down there.
They don't particularly have if you actually think about Southend, if you took the -10 points away, they'd be comfortably in the Halifax and Aldershot would have nothing to play for now. So it's very unfortunate for them. And if they did somehow get in the playoffs, I think most sides would be fearing them because they would be a side that's in a false position.
Well, they went on a phenomenal run because 3 months ago it looked like they were going to teeter on the verge of relegation because they slipped right down the league. But what a job that's been done, especially with everything that's still going on off the field there. It's been phenomenal. But that's the fear. If they do get into the playoffs, can they carry that forward?
It would be a fairy tale. As it pains me to say, it would be a fairy tale if they somehow got in the playoffs, because you'd feel like the only thing they need to do then is get promoted, and I would be backing them if they did sneak in, to be honest. Woking versus Fylde, then. Woking do, of course, need to win this game, and I do think they will. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to secure safety this season.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Woking win as well, but I think it'll be 1-0. I think Fylde, they're very in and out. They're safe. They've had a torrid start to the season. They've done epic to get where they are. But I think it'll be a 1-0 win to Woking.
Right then, that concludes our predictions for the game week. Get your final questions in. It is going to be quite a short show tonight. Of course, it's the final game of the game week. It's a Friday night. I do apologise that we haven't had many shows recently. I've been proper busy, and of course, we've had Wealdstone playing on a Thursday. Halifax have been playing on a Thursday. It's been very difficult to be able to schedule a show. Of course, when you look at it at the moment, you look at the side throughout the league. I want to ask you, Who has been the most underwhelming team this season for you then, when you think of the expectations at the start of the season?
I'd say Oldham. I think Oldham's the one that's been the most underwhelming when with the hype of signing Norwood, and you thought they could really do something here.
Yeah.
And it just flattered to deceive. They went on a couple of little runs, which has kept them just above mid-table, but they've never really made a result this season where you've stood up and took notice. They've got the odd 1-0, 2-0. They haven't went out and give someone a beating. They haven't showed they can do that together, like most of the other teams in the top half have. And I think that's sadly for Oldham fans, because obviously I speak to the Boundary Park Alert System lads, they're lovely lads, even though they told us to F off on their podcast the other week. But I think they're just frustrated. But yeah, no, I think Oldham, and I can see why the fans are frustrated, because there's been a lot of money put in there. And I think have they got a 50-man plus squad as well?
Yeah, massive squad.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. So when you've got that at your fingertips, you should really be doing better.
I'd go for York, in my opinion. You look at them and the expectation to start the season with the players that they were signing on paper. I was expecting them to be, inside the playoffs, and the recruitment's just, now you look at it and it's awful, in my opinion, when you look at it. And, to still be with a shot of actually going down on the final day, for me, that is diabolical this season. And however you dress it up, the owner dresses it up, it's been an awful season and one to forget. And hopefully he learns from this for next season when they recruit again in the summer.
You'd certainly hope so, but I mean, he's got a bit of a track record of teams going down of late, so it's you've got to learn your lesson sooner rather than later, because the York fan base, they've proved they can fill that place. It's been, jumping, and they've got results, but they really need an owner to look after them. I think that's the best way to describe it, because I think, I don't know the full situation. I don't want to cast aspersions, but I don't think a lot of those signings were the manager's signings.
Of course, Sting Stone's come in, who's a Maidstone fan, said, of course, Maidstone could be joining us coming at the end of the season, said, thoughts on Forest Green and Yeovil coming back into the league. For us, that's awful in a way, because this Forest Green is very difficult to get to. It's down south, and likewise with Yeovil as well. And for us Northerners, it's not the greatest, is it?
I mean, obviously a lot of teams, we've seen the hoo-ha with Bishop Stortford in the National League North, which was ridiculous. But for Gateshead, we have the longest travel out of anyone every season, and it's it's never made an issue of. It's just something we've got to get onto, and something we've got to pay the price for being where we are, geographically. But yeah, having Yeovil there, I mean, they're a great team, great support, but God, it's in the arse end of nowhere, isn't it? And it's a trek that very few will make. Only the diehards.
Someone's put thoughts on Dale being took over by a billionaire. Of course, they did have that takeover. I think billionaire might be a little bit too strong. But no, I think Rochdale, they're a side that, for me, overall, I think they've had quite a good season. They've got that stability. For those Rochdale fans that were expecting them to get into the playoffs, I think that was a little bit over-ambitious, considering they've never been in this division before. I think they've done a half-decent job. They've never been in any threat of going down. If anything, they've actually been flirting with the playoffs for probably about three-quarters of the season. So for me, overall, I don't think it's been a bad season for them. And, with the new takeover next season, maybe they can push on, and they'll be hoping to be inside the playoffs at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive club. I mean, for me, even some of the teams in this league now, go back 15 years ago as a Gateshead fan, we would be happy to get Hartlepool in a pre-season friendly as a League Two club. That was something big. Now we're competing with them and beating them, in games and stuff like that. And I'm still pinching myself, because there's some massive clubs in this league, and it makes you think, how good a league it is now. And I think it's severely underrated, and maybe in time it could be League Three, but wishful thinking.
Got another question for you. Who would you say the biggest overachievers are this season? The side that surprised you the most? Perhaps you would say yourselves. There's quite a few clubs, isn't there, this season?
I mean, yeah, I mean, our budget is one of the smallest in the league. We'll make no, the club doesn't hide that. And it's a case of making the wages each month. They're not in dire trouble, but they've got to find it, and they do. I think once the season started, you're hoping top 10. Fingers crossed, FA Cup run. Let's just stay away from relegation because last year was nail biting. And then when we started on fire, you were like, no, we probably can't squeeze the playoffs here. So I would say it was the first 2 months, it was a bit of a surprise, but after that, it wasn't. But I think the biggest overachievers is probably Southend to me. I think with the start that they had, the deduction, all the off-field antics that's still happening now. I mean, I've seen there was a departure this week of someone that worked at the club for many years. There's a bit of a hoo-ha on that. The protests are starting back up, and for them to get through all of that and on the last day of the season to still be in a chance of the playoffs, I think is, as you say, it's fairy tale stuff. And if they got in there, I dare I say they might even push it all the way and get to the final. So, but yeah, I think Southend to me has been the overachievers.
I think I'd have to go for your side, to be honest. I think if Southend did get inside the playoffs, I'd be leaning towards them more. But what Gates have had to deal with throughout the season, at the start of the season, nobody backed them, I don't think, to get in the playoffs. No. Not many people, especially considering the players that they'd lost as well. Of course, Camille Conte left at the start of the season. Owen Bailey left as well. For me, I personally thought Gates would finish mid-table at best, and they went on a brilliant run at the start of the season, were inside the playoffs, and then they had all that adversity when the manager left. They did well after that, I thought, to still be in quite a healthy position. Then January came, the squad got raided, basically. Players were injured, players left, players were turning from loan calls. They went on a bit of a bad run, yet they've still pulled it together to be, in with a shot of finishing fourth this season. They've still scored an enormous amount of goals as well.
And arguably, I mean, it sounds big-headed, but we seem to have a better squad now at the end of the season than what we started with. And if anyone had said that, you would have went, no. And obviously, FA Trophy again is another phenomenal achievement. I think we're the first team to get back-to-back since Grays Athletic in 2005, I think it is. So another great day out for the club, but potentially another one still there. And could you imagine? I mean, being at Wembley 6 days apart, doesn't happen to a non-league club. So I'm just taking each game as it comes, not getting too excited. But it's been a beautiful season.
Fair enough. Then, of course, Chesterfield, they'll be returning to the Football League. To be fair, it is sad to see them going away. I would say maybe from a footballing side, I'd probably look at it and say maybe there's more of an opportunity now because there's no... Well, they will be next season, but there's no huge club with loads of money. Of course, Oldham will probably be the team to beat next season. On paper, they should be with the budget that they've got. But this season, throughout the season, Chesterfield have literally stormed the whole league and nobody's particularly been able to compete. And it's long overdue them getting promoted. So it's sad to see them go. Of course, quite a lot of Chesterfield fans I've seen have actually watched the podcast, not just this season, but last season as well. So it'll be sad to see a lot of their supporters leave and not be in this division this morning, not being able to cover them. And of course, visit there as well. Because I actually got a visit there last Thursday because of Halifax playing there. But for me, I think, of course, them getting promoted. What's your thoughts on that? I'm sure you had a few visits to the Technique.
Yeah, I've even done commentary from there, so it's an amazing ground. It's not a non-league ground, is it? It's just a beautiful setup. I think beginning of the season they were champions elect. I think everyone kind of thought they were going to be chasing for it. Just well deserved to them. They play. I mean, even when we beat them on Monday, they played a fantastic brand of football, and they were probably unfortunate to get beat. To be honest, the referee was awful, but not complaining from our point of view. But Chesterfield, I think they will do like Notts County and Wrexham. I think they'll be up the top end for much of next season. I think they'll push on, they'll add to it, and it's a team that'll probably get itself back on the rise because it's a League One club, if you ask me.
Yeah. Of course, Dorking, Kidderminster and Oxford have all confirmed that they'll be going down. Do you see any of them making an instant return?
It's always a tough one. I mean, I know we're seeing Yeovil come straight back up, which is, fantastic, considering the dive that they went on from the dizzy heights. Kidderminster, possibly, if they keep Phil Brown, in the majority of that squad, because they proved they could do it for a good quarter of the season, but just unfortunately the other three quarters were not the greatest. Dorking is a funny one. I think he'll keep the enthusiasm at the club. I think the fans will be behind him. Whether or not he has a mass wholesale change of the squad, because he has obviously publicly called out his team a lot in recent weeks. Will many want to stay? That is the question. Will many want to go if they're going to be publicly called out? It's a sticky wicket Mark White's got himself on, because yes, he's entertaining. On the other hand, if you're a pro footballer or semi-pro footballer at this team, you want to take it seriously. If you have a bad game, do you really want to be called out on the club's official channels? I don't know, but I think Dorking, I think they will regroup. Whether they come straight back up, but Oxford, I think they won't. I think they'll have a season to regroup. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say I think Kidderminster, they're a big club. I've been quite disappointed with them this season, and recruitment, I was quite shocked with how poor it was in the summer and how they didn't particularly add too much to the squad. I thought they would have done. Of course, Oxford, I felt like they'd come up too early, me anyway, and I did actually predict them to come bottom, which I think they have done. So I think now maybe it might be a good thing for them to go down, regroup and prepare better. They had issues at the start of the season with the stadium and needing to get it up to scratch, so that's probably had an effect on their recruitment as well. Of course, Dorking, they're the one that, for me, sad to see go, because they managed to survive that first season. For probably the first half of the season, they were looking like they were going to be able to survive again and finish in quite a healthy mid-table position. But the form that have been on this second half of the season just simply not been good enough, and they've not been able to put a run together. Even when they've won a game, and they've won some good games against some very good sides, including the likes of Chesterfield, they haven't been able to add to that and gain a bit of momentum. But for me, I think them going down, it'll be interesting to see if he changes the squad much, which I think he will do. If he changes the squad, will he be able to put a title charge together? I think if you put them in the north, I'd say no. But because they're in the south, it's a lot weaker than the north.
Yeah,
I would like to think they'll be up there next season as well. Of course, the final relegation spot, I think based on your predictions, it would be Ebbsfleet. Oh no, it would be Boreham Wood. No, it would be Ebbsfleet who'd go down.
Ebbsfleet.
Yeah.
Ebbsfleet or York, but probably be Ebbsfleet. But I think Ebbsfleet just another one that's flat to deceive this year. Maybe you do see teams maybe come up when they weren't expecting to. I know they'll probably say they were expecting to, but they are a bit of a yo-yo club at the moment, and it's a tough place, isn't it? The south, because I feel like the better players at the moment are coming from the north, and when players from the National League North come up, they seem to be of a better caliber. So, I mean that changes from year to year, but it's going to be an interesting league next year, because if Maidstone don't come up, they've had a fantastic cup run this year. Money wise, they're going to be the big boys next year, you would think.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you on that as well. Because you look at the north, and there's a lot of big clubs in there. Of course, every division's got one or two big clubs in there that are probably in the wrong division. But the north is full of sleeping giants, I think, especially with Kidderminster going down as well. There's Chester, Hereford. I don't understand why Hereford are in the south, to be honest. But you've got Hereford, Chester. Who else is this? Scunthorpe, not guaranteed to get promotion. Of course, they've got to go through the playoffs. Tamworth, of course, coming up this season. They're a side that's going to be interesting, because they have actually been in this division in the past. But will they make the same mistakes of the likes of Oxford, in your opinion? I know it's hard at the moment.
I'm not sure, because it depends what their recruitment's like, because this is their second promotion in a row.
Yeah.
How loyal do you stay to the players that brought you up? Were they playing below their level? I haven't seen enough or anything of Tamworth bar. We're looking at the results. So you've got to think, if they come up and sign some players that have played off the level for a few seasons, you've got to think they're going to have a chance with the momentum that they've got. And I'd imagine the fan base is jumping as well. They will have had a lot more people jumping on, especially with 2 fantastic seasons. So they're going to come up and try and be a force. And as you say, that they've been an established club at this level before all the ownership problems and things like that. But yeah, I think Tamworth's going to be you look at the teams they've kind of disposed of this year in the league. They should be in with a chance, shouldn't they? Because Scunthorpe had a magnificent team on paper.
Yeah, they certainly did. I think we've probably come to a point where we're going to bring the podcast to a close. Of course, it is a shorter podcast tonight. I do apologise for that. I've got to be up early tomorrow because I'll be making a long trip down to Eastleigh. Hopefully, fingers crossed, as a Halifax fan, we'll be able to get the job done. Dave, fingers crossed I'll be seeing you in the playoffs, and thank you very much for joining me.
Well, I'll see you at Wembley again.
Yeah, we certainly would love to see you at Wembley. We
Yeah.
would. But thank you very much for joining me. Also, massive thank you to our sponsors who've sponsored us throughout the season. It's been great to have them along our side that have really supported us. So yeah, please remember to check them out. You get 50% off your order. Cards accepted. A link in the description. You can get a card machine there. It's very modern as well. And you get 50% off if you use the link in the description. No contracts or monthly fees. Also, a massive thank you to you guys. This isn't the final show, but it's the final game week show. Of course, throughout the season, we've grown. I'll be totally honest here. I thought when Wrexham, Notts County, even some of the sides that went down, like your Scunthorpes and Torquays and Yeovils, I was a little bit concerned about how this season would look with views. But to be honest, it's actually gone up even more this season. So that's a massive thank you to you guys. And it just shows how strong this league is, not just from the so-called bigger clubs, but throughout. We're getting a lot of fans from all over in the comments. And it's great to see, it's something that when I was younger, this is kind of what I was dreaming of, was having my own show where we had fans from all around the country and even the globe to a certain extent tuning in. So massive thank you to you guys. Of course, he's not present with us tonight. Of course, I'm sure we'll have another show with him before we bring things to a close for the season. But Paul, massive thank you to him for being my co-host throughout the full season, being able to put up with me. And yeah, once again, thank you to you guys. And we will see you next time. Bye for now.